Hear ye! Hear ye! Let all rise and welcome the return of the boys from Staunton, VA. The hometown rascals are back on stage for another spoken word performance tonight. 7 o'clock on all those outlets that Nathan so generously provided. We may look a bit worse for wear, but it's been a hell of a 2 weeks. When you make a living as we do discussing our thoughts and ideas, it takes a toll on the mind and body. Add in all the costume changes and pyrotechnics and we're talking about 9 to 10 hours of prep for a 90-minute show. It's worth it though, as we love having the stylists brush our hair and cake glamorous makeup on our fading looks and apply lip gel, eyeliner and big glitzy earrings to distract from our world-weary and glazed eyes. We do it for you. Your viewing is all the reward we want. Though I must say the bars of soap were quite a treat, and people still comment on the night the pizza was delivered and the look of sheer joy on our faces. Of course we had to move our studio further underground after that, but it's nice being out of the fishbowl and in the world of subterranean homesick blues. Honestly, I have no clue what I'm even writing, but just watch the show. It's the only way to get me to stop typing. Raise a toast to those you love. We salute you and you're holding up in this heat. Together we can make each other laugh. See you soon. Jabber Jawn. It'll get you through the night. Alright, all night.
3 little frogs sitting on a log. One of them fell in. One frog said to the other frog, well, you better go get her. 2 little frogs sitting on a log. One of them fell in. Last little frog, he sat and thought, good thing they can swim. Jabber Jawn, Jabber Jawn, Jabber Jawn, Jabber Jawn. 3 little frogs sitting on a log. One burst into a grin. One frog said to the other frog, wonder what's got into him. 2 little frogs sitting on a log. One laughed until he was red. Last little frog, he sat and thought, must have been something I said. Jabber Jawn, Jabber Jawn, Jabber Jawn, Jabber Jawn.
Oh, here we go. That's us. Yes. Sans applause, because we don't have Lex tonight, but you have us. Welcome to the show, Jabber Jawn at your service. We are back in the saddle after a 2-week summer vacation. Welcome back, Kyle Hogg. Welcome back, Steve Moore.
Welcome back,
Welcome
Nathan
back,
Moore.
all y'all.
Welcome back, Nathan Moore.
Oh, thank you very much. Good to be here. Well, you guys have survived the heat so far. It's finally cooling down a little bit.
Well, it's good to see y'all. It's good to be back.
Yeah, it is good to be back.
It's all good.
How you been doing with the heat?
I've got a pretty good ritual.
Mm-hmm.
I'm getting up at 5:45, and that's, I was getting up much later in the winter, but I'm trying to beat the heat. And I'm walking between 6 and 7 to do my walking. Walking a little bit more each day, trying to improve that.
Mm-hmm.
Then I come back and I get my coffee and sit on the porch for an hour and watch my birds and watch the people go walk in the park.
Well, I was very impressed with the diversity of birds in your yard yesterday when we were visiting.
Well, I'm getting some... since I've figured out how to do my feeder, I've been fighting deer this year.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I had to learn how, I have to bring my feeder in every night, because if not, the deer will turn it over and get all the sunflower seeds.
It's pretty crazy how far the deer come into Staunton. I don't know if there's
This
a place
is the worst
in Staunton.
I've never had them in my yard this much, but I'm a regular now. There's a regular deer coming in my yard.
Mm-hmm. Why do you think that is?
Well, I think there's just more deer and less hunters, and the drought, there's not as much food. They're just looking for food. And there's just more food around homes than there is anywhere else. Between the plants everybody's got and I mean, everybody's losing their hostas and things. It's just, they're just ripped. You can walk, when you take a walk, you can see places where they just walked along the road eating their way. When you go through there, you can see where they've eaten. And that's unusual.
Yeah.
And I've got droppings everywhere. So I'm fighting the deer and trying to keep my bunnies from getting caught by the hawk or the cat.
The hawk?
Yeah, I got a hawk that's hunting pretty regular in through my area. I had a litter of bunnies, I think. I'm down to, I have one adult and one younger one still hanging around.
Meanwhile, like 5 houses down, just crickets chirping. Bluebirds putting his hat on in the morning.
A fence will keep all that wildlife out of there. Now, do deer eat trash? Like, will they knock a trash can over and eat, or they don't care about that?
No, it'd be probably a raccoon or possum. But no, they're not really trashy. They like green stuff. They like healthy stuff.
You think it was a deer that ate half of the cantaloupe?
Probably. I'm not sure. But that would be, that's it. I didn't look at the cantaloupe, but I don't know. But I think so.
Cather had a little factoid she learned recently, but I can't remember exactly what it was. But someone was telling her that the animals go into a lot of the tomatoes and stuff like that, not for the tomato, but for the water.
At this time, yeah, I think that's exactly true.
That's sort of
With
interesting.
some of the fruits that they don't, especially during this drought type that
Which
we've
is so
had.
sad. I'd rather them just eat the whole dang thing.
Yeah,
than-
you'd think they
you got
would.
one bite out of it, and you're just like, oh my god.
Yeah, I don't understand how the digestion of a lot of these birds are not adapted to sugar, evidently, like ours is, which keeps them healthier. Yeah.
So before you forget, you said you had something came to mind right before we went on air about the bad habits of old people.
Yeah, I wanted to address some, maybe do one or two a week.
This might be a running segment.
One or two a week.
On every show, I might just.
I've got 13 or 14 I can rip off in 5 minutes.
I don't want to make a whole show of it. That's what I'm saying. I just thought I'd throw something out. And I had one I wanted to throw out.
No, I want to ask a question. Just what do we consider an old person? Like a state of mind or a physical age or what?
I'm thinking a lot of what I'm thinking about is the physical aging.
Okay.
So and that can be, people are at different degrees of health. I'm 76 chronologically. I never have done years very much. So I don't know a whole lot of difference between, I do while I'm doing them, but for me, they're old, like you say. I think psychologically, it's an attitude, and also I'm talking about, when I say old, is the physical body.
Okay.
And the issue, a lot of the issues I'm going to talk about are things that happen naturally to most everybody that gets old. Not just certain, but I think it's something we deal with.
Just men and women?
Well, it might be one week it might be just men, and another week it might be just women, but other times it'll be both. What would this one be?
Let me give a quick shout out. We don't have our producer this week. Lex is at a conference for his work. So you guys are helping us produce. Kyle's keeping an eye on the chats. So wherever you're watching, Twitch, Facebook, YouTube, we can see your chats here on our Discord server. I'll be controlling the cameras, but let us know if you can't hear us, if a microphone goes out, or if we're uneven in levels or whatever. And Kyle will keep an eye on the chat and see. Just you're our producer tonight out there, so thank you for helping out. All right.
All right. Now, I'm not going to do this one tonight, but next week I'm going to talk about how easy it is to forget shit when somebody starts talking like that.
Right.
And you lose, and you start listening to them instead of remembering what you were going to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times, an old person doesn't
completely
remember, completely lose it. But I did not.
Oh, good.
I must be old then.
Right.
Yeah, well, there are other conditions that can create it, the same effect. There's lots of mental states that
Lots of ways to wind up there.
that you can end up there.
Yeah.
Remember, all right, so this is the one that I wanted to bring up tonight, and that is that I have a bad habit. And it's a difficult habit because it makes sense, but and here's the situation. My hearing, so this is an auditory discussion, so listen up. I, a lot of times, don't understand what someone says to me because I can't hear certain frequencies. I hear volume, you know what I mean? I can hear how loud it is, but I can't distinguish the frequencies because I don't, as we've talked about musically, I don't hear certain frequencies. And that's because my eardrum was deformed when I was...
That's something you've dealt with your whole life. in one way or another.
Exactly, and it's a condition I have, but as I've gotten older, it deteriorates,
Right.
which is one of the things that happens as you age. Everything just gets older. So as my hearing, I notice it's not a question of turning the volume up. It's the fact that there are certain voices that I can't hear when I'm watching a movie. So, and it's just some of them. Others I hear perfectly clearly. I like people I can hear. But what happens a lot of times in conversations, and between the two of you, I have to ask, he's so patient, but I have to ask him over and over, like, what did you say? And then I have to to pick up the flow, because for me, his frequency doesn't match up to mine. Where someone with a different sounding voice, yours, I can usually pick up, but I don't always pick it up. But in terms of, well, what happens is, I notice I do this with my grandchildren, that they'll be saying something and they all talk differently and they all are having their own developmental speech things, but that has nothing to do with the problem. The problem is I can't hear them. And so this is the problem that I see old people have. And it's between old people and young people. But what I'm saying is I think a lot of younger people, whatever young is, I think they kind of dismiss you as thinking you're not with it, because at some point you said something joking, or you said something that was said one way, and they looked at you and smiled and agreed.
Right.
And they sound, that's stupid. Why did you do that? But then they go on and don't apologize. That's my bad habit. I'll just shake my head if I don't understand, because I'm tired of trying to say, would you repeat that?
Right.
And I usually will just let it go, especially if it's a child. I just let it go, and they are sitting over there thinking, Granddad's pretty dumb. And that's exactly what's happening.
I told him I wanted ice
to
cream.
all you grandchildren, not just mine, but all you grandchildren, give them a break. It's not always because we're dumb. Sometimes we don't understand you, and we're embarrassed about that.
Right.
And that can lead to other things that are embarrassing, like our vision or whatever. But, give us a little bit more credit for not being stupid. You don't get to be 76 being that stupid.
Right.
Give us, we used to respect our elders more. Now I think they're just getting in the way because we're
Holding in the way.
in the way of the flow of money. You know, and that's a concern you have. You're looking at this. Do we try to keep you alive and spend all that money that you saved for my grandchildren? There's a money issue there. Now you can call it other issues. It's a love issue too, you know. But you know, well, I didn't mean to go there. That's a little too deep. I wasn't going to dive into the deep end. I just wanted to wade a little bit. But that's my point.
Yeah.
I've made my point.
When me and my mom sit across from each other and talk, she laughs at every joke I say. She's cracking jokes. It's a beautiful conversation. A couple of times we had to drive to Richmond, and when she's not looking at me, she doesn't laugh at a single joke I say. And I realize if she's not looking at me, she really, like you said, she's not really. I think just the visualization, she sort of can read or see my face or something.
Well, and that's another great point I want to bring out. What do we do about that? Well, one thing is, when you think that someone might not hear you, you need to look at them and enunciate and talk to them. And don't just throw it out to the side, because they are using your facial expression to substitute. And so I can hear a lot better if I can see your lips move.
Right.
It's not like reading lips. You have to really be deaf to do that, you know, to learn that skill, I think, because you don't get that good. But you do read, like you say, the face tells you where we're going with this.
Right.
And that's what all, you know, you do, audit, the whole audit, it's working with all your senses together to get a feel for what the reality is. And you use those cues. So, and if they're looking at you like you said something wrong and then you don't know what they said, so you don't know what you said, then you just feel dumb and walk away.
Just to like zero in just for a second on when you first started telling that, it was like I had a light flashing before my eyes moment of nothing specific, but the millions of times exchanges I've had with people where I didn't understand what they were saying, but did the whole like nodding in agreement thing and then wondering inside if like that was something you shouldn't have been nodding in agreement to.
Right.
Like there's always this 10% chance that you should have been like emphatically no. It's such a funny moment.
Well,
like, all through my life I've had those moments of like you don't stop and go back for whatever reason. It's like, let's just move.
Think it could. Well, you could be wrong,
right?
Because now you think you're right, but you know, but you could be, you could be blowing it up for nothing.
That happens at work all the time. We're all in offices side by side, and somebody will come in and be like, "Did you hear what's?" And they're trying so they don't hear it. And I'm just like not a clue. Like if somebody came in and said, "What did they tell you?" I'm like, I don't even know who they were talking about. I have no idea what they said. And I just, you know, it's like you said, it was reading the face. I can tell they're like, "Can you believe what an idiot?" And I'm making a face that's supposed to agree with it, you know, like.
Yeah, it's not really an old thing necessarily. It can happen at any age. And it can happen with other things other than just the hearing part too.
Well, it's weird you just brought it up because I didn't even realize it. I probably did realize it about my mom, but when we drove to Richmond for that wedding, I really realized. But if I'm not looking at her, she's listening to me, but like, you know, I'll just make some smart comment that she would usually, not smart as in smart, but funny, that she would laugh at, and she's just looking straight ahead. I'm like, did you not hear me? You know. Then I'm like. And so I didn't realize that till like 2 or 3 weeks ago.
Yeah. Well, I bet there's a lot of people out there that are just thinking about it for the first time right now with me, because I don't do this just with my grandchildren. I do it with everybody I meet.
Yeah,
I might be smarter than you think I am.
That's not a bad habit on your part necessarily, is it?
Well, it avoids an issue. So for me, a lot of times I just don't want to deal with it.
So the bad habit is not like not taking the time to get clarification.
Yeah, that you're misleading. Well, you're risking saying something really dumb or making, like you say, just saying the opposite of what you believe.
Right.
I don't like to go around doing that. I do it, but usually I do it for a reason.
Why did you bring me that plate of food? You said yes, you wanted it. Oh, okay. You know.
I've been, our president at the moment seems to be struggling with a lot of, the mental decline and stuff like that. And I see something in him a lot of times that I've done. I'm half his age. I don't know what I am, but I still do it all the time where I will see somebody that I don't know that well, but I know them and I know what their name is, but I don't trust myself. I doubt myself. Right. I'm like, it's Kyle, right? I'll say that in my head. It's definitely Kyle. Right. But then I don't trust myself enough that I'll have to turn to Catherine and be like, get their name, whatever. And then you'll be like, Kyle. And I'm like, oh, I feel like I've even done this. like I give myself away. But it's the interesting thing is that doubt.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's I don't know what that is.
It's almost easier to just ignore him and walk away than look like a fool by calling him the wrong name.
Right.
Hey, Mark. Oh, I wasn't talking to you, Nick. I wasn't talking to you. Mark just walked by over there.
9 out of 10 times I knew it. I just didn't have faith in my memory. I err on the side that I'm wrong or whatever. And there's been several Biden moments where I feel like lately where he has that doubt. He's just plagued by his own lack of faith in his own mind, which is he's not just saying the wrong. He's refusing to say anything because he's afraid he's going to say the wrong thing.
Well, I know at least one of them that they show over and over. They show the same clips over and over to describe the situation. With that one clip where they just kind of faltered, and it just you do it all the time. And I say this, I'm 76, but I know I've been doing it for 10 years
at least.
That I'll just be saying something, and I'll think of something else, and when I come back, what I was thinking of, it went away.
Right.
And that's exactly what happens. It's short-term memory. It's right there, and you were just saying it, and you looked over there, and your little neurons went over there, and when they came back, that neuron had slipped away. It just didn't stay. That memory didn't stay. Well, you do it all the time on little levels, and that doesn't mean you're not thinking life through, and you don't have good policies, and you don't know who your friends are and who it doesn't mean anything except that you have that little blip of short-term memory. The only people that don't have that problem really don't think that much.
Right.
So their roads are set and hard, and they don't run off of them. If you have little neurons that go out and think about other things and see different sides of things, you're going to have a couple little minor run-ins.
Right.
It's like more traffic on the road. I just made all that up, by the way.
It rang true.
Thank you.
Any questions in the chat?
No, I'm wondering if it's even working. You're the only one that's even posted in here.
Oh, yeah? How about a show of hands out there if this is all working?
Now, do you ever get that feel? Sometimes somebody will be telling a story, and it's restoring my. What do they say now? Like most conversations are just you waiting for your chance to tell your story or something. But sometimes somebody will be telling a story, and your story really is the perfect story for the follow-up. And sometimes I'll just get so paranoid and forget it. I'll just stop listening to what they're even saying. Like, all right, I got the gist of it. I'm just going to stop listening so I don't forget what I'm going to tell you after this, which is the worst type of conversation you can have, like. But, I mean, the natural thing would be like they tell a story, then I would listen to the whole thing and then tell it. But sometimes if it comes too early, you're just like, man, I can't. Either I'm gonna have to cut you off right now, which I do to both of y'all all the time. Like I gotta say something funny, cut you off. But well, today at work, I hope nobody from work's watching. But this one lady is just wound up, man. She was like on trucker speed or something, and she went over and told somebody, they're not gonna pay. They're paying their bills. Oh, they're paying their bills monthly. It's supposed to be paying them quarterly. I think that's what it says. I didn't read the email. I'm like, what are you upset about that? You didn't even read the email, but you're having a fit. She was so anxious to complain that she didn't even read their email. It's like, here's an email. I know what they want. You just go to complain to somebody. Right. And when she said that, I was just sitting there. I typed the guy she was talking to. So that doesn't make any sense. I'm complaining about something I hadn't even read yet.
That is interesting because it comes back to she just needed something to complain about. Yeah, that happened.
But isn't there like a statistic I read somewhere, like a certain amount of conversation is people just waiting to tell their story of what happened to them?
Well, I think that's very
Human
common.
nature.
That's human nature. That's exactly.
So it's hard to find somebody who's just going to sit there and listen to you and just let you roll out all your thoughts, which is what these people let us do, which is so kind of them.
I saw someone put a post on Facebook the other day. To paraphrase it, the idea was they were saying that when you're telling me your story, and then I launch into what that made me think of, it's not that I'm trying to make it about me, but I'm telling my story to show you that I empathize with, that I truly but I'm not sure like what inspired that post, but I thought it was an interesting place the person was coming from, that they were afraid that their friends or whatever were thinking they always made it about themselves, but what they were really trying to do was show that they truly, personally, on a personal level, empathize with where they're coming from. But that is, it is a interesting skill to be a good listener and to not be distracted by your own story. Or I don't know.
Well, it's like a good talk show host or something. They know to listen, but they can tell when your story's done or it's starting to drag. They can throw something in. Or,
keep it moving.
Yeah. I guess a good interviewer does that too. Like you were telling me about reading that Woodward book. It's knowing the questions to ask, when to keep quiet and let the person, instead of interjecting something, let's let them spill the beans. And
definitely an art to that.
So, I don't know if you've ever told this story on the show about about your ear and what that is and the huge pivotal moment it played in your life.
Well,
what do you remember when you were first diagnosed and what the diagnosis was, what the condition is?
I don't know what's going on in there except that those the hammer and anvil and stir up the bones in there. They're just not. They were damaged by childhood. Had mumps and had all the communicable diseases.
Oh, it was from like a childhood illness.
It was all childhood illness. So it happened when I was very young. So it's been a condition I've had, and I haven't had my hearing tested in a long time. I need to go see if I can get something to help. Probably get aids for this. It hadn't seemed to be a problem until I've noticed it more lately. In other words, I think it's getting worse. So maybe need to go see if I can get some help. But it's a condition. It's not like it's going to get better. And it does seem to be getting worse with age. But that's all.
Have you ever tried a hearing aid?
Not really. Again, it's not the volume so much as it is the frequencies. That's been my analysis.
It was quite a weird revelation to me when I realized what hearing aids really were. I don't know what I thought they were, but when I realized that they're really just little speakers in your ear amplifying the volume of the sound.
Yeah, so that's why I've never really pursued it, because I don't think it would help that much.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I can hear that there's sound, but I just can't distinguish the pitches or the frequencies.
Now, performing, did you ever wear, like you see all the performers wearing the earpieces?
I've never done. Those are like just basically like headphones,
Right.
in-ear monitors. I've never done that. Just in studios, but never on stage. So when did you first know that there was damage to your ear?
Well, I knew it since I was a child, but it never came up until I got drafted. If that's a story. Or,
Yeah, that's
yeah.
wrong.
Well, I knew I had a bad hearing problem, but I didn't think it was that bad. I could never had any real issues.
Is it just one ear?
It's both ears were damaged, but one of them's a lot worse. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think one of them's about 30%. The other one's about 70. So
Wow.
add it all up, I'm 100%. Didn't do anything with math. Let's see. What was I gonna say?
So did a doctor find it out by looking in your head, or how they?
Yeah, you can just see the eardrum. They could see the damage. You know, I had a lot of swelling in there. It was stopped up for like weeks at a time.
As much as sound and everything is my life and livelihood, I don't have any appreciation for how the ear works or what it does, or how, like, it just seems so strange that water can go in, like you can swim underwater and stuff, and I can't even picture that. I know I've seen pictures, but I just don't have my brain around what's really going on in there, why it can be so.
Well, the bottom, the physical part that you're describing is one thing, but the translation of those vibrations that you're able to pick up in the eardrum, and that whole area with the bones and the nerves are attached to an auditory nerve, and that's the communication between those vibrations in your brain and what your brain is then doing with it, because your brain's doing more with those vibrations than his, and definitely more than mine, because I'm not even getting the vibrations.
Right.
But in other words, the really exciting, to me, science or magic or whatever is in the nerves translating that vibration. I can understand the vibration. I don't understand how you can make that kind of music.
Yeah, I don't understand any of it.
Well, that's where that's why I've been studying the brain as a layman for years.
Well, even just you talking about it, I never even thought about it before. How does me moving my mouth and air coming out? It's not like reading a book where there's a physical thing there. It's just, well, I guess.
Yeah, it is.
It is but it's
You're
like,
sending molecules.
like how in the world does that
vibrating?
work?
You're vibrating the air, and the air, that's where your eardrum, and it's so sensitive that it can feel that.
It's amazing.
And you think of other animals that their hearing is so much better than ours. So, like bats. So let's talk about bats for a minute.
Right.
Good God. Now you're talking about some serious shit here now.
Right. Because they produce,
Think of what they're doing.
they make the vibrations.
They send out a squeak.
And then it bounces off things,
And
comes
what,
back.
what bounces back tells them what reality is.
Right.
Here's a childhood memory. He was sitting on the Philippines lawn. It was like at a 45-degree angle. Bunch of boys in the summer, and a couple little girls are running by. We'd sit up there you ride your bicycles and you take a break and sit there and watch the sunset. And then the bats would come out. And they'd be flying around the light. There's a light switch would come on, and the lights would come on, and the bugs would come to the light, and the bats would start coming around. And we would grab acorns out of Jimmy Coffey's yard and go sit there in a little bucket of acorns and throw them up in the air, and
Oh,
the
wow.
bats would fly down and
Oh,
look
wow.
and look and then fly away. So we would play with the bats in the evening.
Wow.
Oh, yeah.
There's a summer memory for
Yeah,
you.
it's nice.
I was telling him I just listened to this thing on YouTube like a week or two ago. It was the sound of crickets, just like this guy recorded
slowed
them,
it down.
and he could sound like a choir. So if you saw that, wasn't that
Oh, yeah.
amazing?
I used to play that on Revolution Radio all the time.
Yeah, it's like they were going all together and
Mm-hmm.
everything.
You ever heard that?
What's that?
He takes the sound of crickets and slows it way down,
Yeah, we were talking
and it
about
becomes like sounds like a choir. It's like the Tabernacle Choir. Or
Yeah.
something. It's
Yeah.
the ebbs and flows
yeah,
of it, and
isn't
the
that-
harmonies.
isn't that
It
amazing?
is remarkable.
Yeah, what other organisms are seeing and feeling is just it's another world.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so back to your eardrum. So when you
We're gonna get to the bottom of this story.
when you really got the
You got it.
diagnosis.
Well, I got the diagnosis that, what happened, what makes it an interesting story that when I got out of high school, it was 68, 69, Vietnam was hot. I mean, we were sending boys over there all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So the draft was really in effect. But I got a 2S deferment.
And what's
So
that?
It was a student deferment
Mm.
for going to college. So if I hadn't gone to college, I would have been drafted then, or I would have been put in the pool then. But then I was deferred for 4 years until I got out of college. So when I got out of college after 4 years, I lost that deferment, but it was 1970, 71, and Vietnam was dying down. The difference in my case was that in 68, they had military doctors and they needed people. And by 70, they had let the military doctors they just had civilian doctors, and Vietnam was winding down, so they didn't really need anybody that bad. So they didn't draft it. Well, I was draft number 146. No, I was 143, and they went to 146. So I got drafted. And when I got drafted,
It's amazing they were still doing the draft that late.
they were, yeah, it was. I lost my deferment, and then they did the thing, and I was in there with them, and so I got drafted, and it was New Year's Eve. We were living over in Baldwin Acres.
So I was just born,
Yeah,
or
you
right
were
before.
you were about 2 or 3. It was 71 by then.
I would have been 1.
Yeah, you were just a baby then. I was thinking of it later, but yeah, then when they came to the door, that we had just moved there. It was New Year's Eve, so if I'd made it to the next day, I would have been fine.
What do you mean by that?
Because the draft would have been for the next year. It's a yearly draft. So, but
So they show up at your door on New Year's Eve?
the guy knocked on the door with a telegram.
Oh my
It was
God.
the classic telegram that said, "Greetings, you have been selected to serve in the U.S. Army for 2 years. Congratulations." And they
Congratulations.
gave me my orders to report to Fort Campbell, Kentucky.
Fort Campbell, Kentucky.
Yep. So I got on the bus, went to Roanoke, and from Roanoke they took us on down to some place. No, it was to Roanoke. We went to Roanoke to get our induction physical, and that's where the story picks up that you've heard. This time with the civilian doctors, when they looked at my ear, the doctor said he called 2 other doctors over, and they all took turns looking in my ear, and they said, "We've never seen an eardrum that looked like that."
Wow.
So I've never really seen pictures of it, but it might be worth keeping at some point. But basically, they failed me. I was one of the 2 people in that busload of young men that went down there and only 2 of us came back. The other one was the best softball player I ever saw play the game.
Oh, wow.
I won't say his name on the air, but he knows who he is. But we laughed all the way back because we were healthy and young and felt playing softball. We felt great. And some of the guys that went down there were like 240, big boys.
Unhealthy.
Unhealthy, yeah. But they all passed.
Wow.
It wasn't fair. But I wouldn't have done well in the Army. That was magical. But, so in retrospect, as I've lived my life, I've always thought of my loss of hearing as, it's a great gift I have.
Right.
That's given me this life, because I'm pretty sure I would have probably not made it through Vietnam. One way or the other, I'm not sure I would have come back, or I wouldn't have come back the same.
Right. Wow.
Not sure anybody did, tell you the truth.
Yeah.
That's odd that they would give you the deferment to get your college degree. And they're like, all right, you've worked your way through that. Let's send you off to get yourself killed now.
Didn't make a whole lot of it.
We didn't want to take you before you had the chance to get that great education.
You could look at that as being part of another system of keeping some white people out of the Army. They're more likely to be going to college. You could see it as part of that system.
Definitely the privileged people.
More of the privileged people. What was very common in the Civil War was if you had any money, you could pay for someone to go
in your stead.
Wow. To sign up for you. And that was very common.
No, I know, like in the 80s, when I graduated, like a high percentage of people went to college. Even people that I considered like half-wits would go to college. I mean, that was the thing to do. Like when you graduated, was a high percentage of people going to college, or were they getting jobs?
I think so. I think that was a pretty high percentage. There was always a certain, industrial arts. You'd have that stereotype, but it was really stupid. I learned more taking industrial arts than anything else I took, I think. Yeah, it was a great course. But, in other words, that was a trade in my day. It was something you did if you were going into the trade. So basically, my generation, you were choosing either to go to college to do something professional, or you were going into a trade, plumber, electrician. I mean, it wasn't so much a bad thing not to go to college. Although I do think that a lot of people that didn't go to college felt like they were not treated the same and had a false image of those people that got to go to college. Right. And had an unfair advantage, and lots of times they did, because a lot of jobs weren't open unless you had a college education. It was a system.
Do they still do that? The trades thing in high school?
Yeah, oh yeah, more so than ever.
Yeah.
You're down at, the trade, what do they call it?
There's still shop class and all that kind of stuff.
Oh, I don't know about that, the high school, but...
Oh yeah, where do they take them? It's
this
out there by
Governor School.
Yeah.
I taught there. The Governor School is, but not. It's Governor School's part of it. What's their? The Valley Votech.
Yeah, Valley Votech.
I'm sorry, Valley Votech. They've been there, and I think they're stronger than ever.
That's cool.
I took when I was unemployed that year. I took some computer classes out there, and there was all kinds of people out there taking, welding or engine repair. Real jobs. You need to know what you're doing to do it.
Yeah, I think it's still happening. It probably needs to happen more. We definitely need people that can do things.
Yeah, I didn't learn any of that. I would be so much in a better spot now if I knew how to do a simple rewiring, or just if I knew how to do simple, house repairs.
Right.
That, like you said, you didn't really learn it. If you decided to go this way, they're like, well, you'll just hire somebody to do it for you. And this way, you're like, well, you'll save $1 million down the road by doing it yourself. You know, you'll make $1 million and can pay this guy to do it for you.
Right, exactly.
Man. But you went to college for a little bit?
Yeah, I didn't. I ended up quitting. I played so much music during college that at one point I got what's it called when they kick you out because your grades aren't good enough? The suspension, academic probation, or I don't know what it was, but so I had to lose a semester, and that's when we moved down to Williamsburg and started a band called Buddha Hay. But then I did, because I wanted to leave in good standing, I could already feel myself not being very interested in it, but I did go back to school for a couple more years just to get my GPA up to a respectable level, and then I got a one-way ticket to the live music capital of the world. Never looked back.
Man.
It'd be sort of fun to just to complete that at some point in my life, maybe when I don't know, in my golden years. Yeah. But,
I graduated from high school, and then I was dating a girl a year younger than me. Then she went to Blue Ridge, and I thought, well, I'll just go because she's going to be there. Like 2 or 3 weeks into it, I thought, man, I just knew. I mean, I'm not into studying.
You didn't finish school?
No, well, I barely got through that first semester.
Mm-hmm.
Much to my family's chagrin. You're smart. I just can't do it. Please let me be.
Mm-hmm.
But I know, like, every job interview you go for, no matter, like, you know, Hardee's or McDonald's, you know, years of college and all that stuff, it's like, man, it really does have such an impact, like you said.
Mm-hmm.
I guess it shows that you can dedicate yourself and achieve a goal or something.
What's that?
I guess if you could complete 4 years of college, whether you learn anything or not, it shows that you've stuck to a plan and completed a goal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it can be a real statement. But a lot of times it just is, there's a lot of stories behind everybody that goes to college. Some of them are really, in other words, this was something I observed, was that a lot of people don't really take their education seriously during their college years. Mm-hmm. For whatever reason, it's also party time.
Oh yeah.
And it seems
it's your first experience of independence.
Yeah, exactly. It's exactly the worst situation you can have to ask a young person that age with those hormones flowing to study a subject like English history. I don't think so. Not at the keg is still tapped. I mean, I'm going down to the other hall there.
Well, just remember, like when we were college age, you were drinking at 18. Man, you could go to your first class, wander over to a bar and sit down and drink. Yeah. Man, that class was great. Hey, barkeep, line up a couple of shots for me. Like,
was the drinking age 18 when you turned 18?
Yeah.
It was?
Yeah.
Wow.
I think my brother, who was born in '68, was the year that they switched over. He had to wait till he was 21. He was like, hey, he didn't think that was fair.
Such an arbitrary thing. I remember marveling at that because if the draft was up at 18, you could go fight in the war, but you couldn't be trusted with a beer for 3 more years.
Yeah.
3 more years. That arbitrary lines we
No,
drawn.
it's 21. Is that you've traveled a lot? Is 21? And is that the national?
I guess that is a state by state thing, huh?
I don't even know. Is it?
I don't even know either. I'm not sure.
I think it is.
A national thing?
State thing.
Mm.
I'm not sure. Now, I think, is it firearms 21 yet? Or is that a state thing?
Well, it must not be, because that kid was, what, 20, you told me?
Yeah, but
That's true.
he didn't buy that gun. It was his dad's.
Right. But I think it's 18, but it might be a state-by-state thing, too.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
And I know, like, when I was working at one of my jobs in New Jersey, I worked with people in Nebraska, and the driving age out there was really young. They were driving, like, farmland, and they had to go run errands and stuff, so the driving age was, like, 15 or something pretty low. Because they needed to get from space to, they needed you to go pick up seed or whatever 40 miles away.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that was like a limited, we want you going here and here, or if you could just go anywhere you wanted. Now, would you go back to high school if you could?
Would I go back to high school?
Would
What
you
do mean?
relive it? Not relive the exact same thing, but if somebody said, Nathan, we're going to take you back, you can get go to high school for 4 more years, would you do it? Or you'd be like, no, I've done that?
Knowing what I know now,
Yeah.
I could go back and enter my 14-year-old body and do that all again.
But you wouldn't, your decision was based on what you know now, but when you got back there, you were the same. You didn't, it was like the first time.
I don't know. My brain, daydreaming that was not about high school again, but just like a whole do-over.
The whole thing?
Because then you get, I presume you wouldn't then get transported back to your old self after high school was over. That wouldn't be worth it. But if I got another run, if I could redo my life, I might do it. Knowing what I know now. Would you do that?
Do what?
Your life over, knowing what you know now.
Sure.
If
You wouldn't be scared that what if something happens, I get hit by a car when I'm 4 years old?
Wouldn't that be the rub?
I was watching a TV show or something, and I thought, man, would I give up everything I had and just say, all right, just like a roll of the dice, let's just see if I can do better?
To go back?
See, I don't know if I'd have the balls to do that. I might just be, this has been a good ride. I don't want to risk it,
Well, that's the evaluation you have to make.
Yeah, it's a tough
How
one.
rides has been. If you're in jail for 40 years, I bet you'd do it over.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. With the
But
life I've lived.
That's what I'm saying, too.
Yeah.
I think with the life I've lived, I wouldn't do it over.
It would be such a roll of the die.
But you just put that qualification on there. I was just thinking about doing it over again. That'd be a lot of fun now.
Mm-hmm.
If
Right.
I knew what I know now and back again,
Right.
I would have had a lot more dates, I guarantee you. Because I would stop after one call. I would think nobody wants to date me. I didn't realize you can make 8 calls before you get one. If number 9 says yes, you're doing something Friday night. That's the important thing.
Well, that's totally. It's different if you know what you know now, because then you're going back with.
Well, that's where my head
that's
was the
unnatural.
whole time you were doing
Yeah.
this. And then you put that little qualification on there. You had to live the rest of your life. Because the bottom line is, I think I've lucked out about 1,000 times. I've ducked at just the right time for the wrong reason.
Right.
If they're shooting a lot of bullets, you got to be lucky.
So do you think we're like? What do you think the percentage of people that would be like, oh man, I'd give this up in a heartbeat just for another change?
What are you asking me? What now?
Like, what percentage of the world do you think would be like, oh my God, I would trade this, I would give it up right now to get another chance?
To live their life over again.
Well, a little of that is an age question. When are we asking this question?
Mm-hmm.
But also, you wouldn't know, like, you wouldn't be born in Staunton. You would just roll the dice. You could be born in Germany or Australia or Alabama.
I want my life. I've had my life. Hey, you're not taking my life away. I had a good one.
I love just imagining, like, if I got to do that, I would want to, like, retrace a lot of my steps, because I would want the blessings. I'd want to meet a lot of the same people that are my friends, but there's no guarantee they would be there.
Oh, that's right.
Like.
I think something's not working. Some guy's asking.
Oh yeah, they should be.
That's why nothing's showing up, I guess.
I don't know how to fix that. I don't think.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. So you would miss, and you'd have no memory of those friends.
Well, you just want
Oh,
to start over.
wait, no, I thought
You keep
we
changing the rules.
Yeah, you said we know all that we know
No,
now.
I said you wouldn't, but then he changed it to you would, and you listen to him more than me, because my frequency kind of doesn't come through.
But I definitely don't want to go back if
If it's just
can't
starting
go,
over.
if I'm just starting over.
But don't you
Because
think?
then I would just make all the same mistakes.
But don't you think
again.
you'd be sort of a creeper if you knew like too much, and people are like, why are
that's-
you 5 years old and know that?
That's part of the appeal of the whole thing.
To be a creeper?
To be, I mean, you would have the gift of your experience going into it. That's what makes it so interesting.
So you'd be telling your parents, calm down. This really doesn't make any difference right now.
Right.
No. Listen, if I don't go to bed right now, in the rest of my life, it's not going to make any difference. Let me stay up, get off my back. They'd be like, you little creeper, what's wrong with you? Or what if you went back and they sent you back to a world where everybody was redoing their world, so everybody knew. Think how different the world would be. Like, let's say we all would pass away, we would go to a world where everybody had already lived their lives. So everybody was operating and acting as if they knew how the world really... God, that's scaring me now. That's like a Philip K. Dick book or something. So everybody grows up knowing all the stuff they knew. God, that's
From the previous,
crazy.
like a reincarnation, but you retain all.
Yeah, but think how different things would be. Like, you wouldn't argue about stupid stuff, or you would start planning things like really far in advance.
Mm-hmm.
I know if I just save $5 a week for this, if eventually when I'm 30 I'll have like $1 million. It would be so different. I mean, you have evil.
It would also be
you'd
so
have evil though.
I don't think I would want to be suddenly 14 again now. Like going back is also going back to 1984.
Oh, you're going back. You're not just starting over. You're going back to reliving the same time period.
Right.
Oh man, see, you getting all kinds of new rules into it.
Well, that's what I assumed from the beginning.
So what if you
When
didn't
you
know?
said go back to high school, I wasn't imagining Staunton High with completely different teachers and people.
No, I meant it like you'd be born like tomorrow. But then also, what if you didn't know when you'd be born? You could be born in like 1200 something. You just don't know when they're gonna plop you down in history. It gets less and less the less you know, the less appealing it becomes, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But then I'm sure there's some people that had like the shittiest life ever. Would be like, man, I don't care where you put me.
Right.
It can't be any worse.
I would
than
definitely
this.
do it. So it does seem like we have a technical difficulty going on, and we are not seeing the chats from the other places at all, from Facebook or YouTube, and I'm not sure why. But but you are saying that we are streaming on those places. We're just not seeing the chats, which is too bad. Let's see if there's...
Does that mean they're hearing us but not seeing us, or what?
Well, no,
I can't read. I kept thinking, because usually this thing's lighting up like crazy, and nobody's commenting. Nobody's commented the whole show.
Oh, well, that means they're not getting it, I would think.
Yeah. And then somebody, J. Dodd wrote in and said, should he be seeing the comments?
yeah, it looks like we're streaming on the platforms, but we're not seeing their chats in Discord. And I don't know how to fix that without starting all the way, without going back, knowing what we know now to the beginning of the show.
I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
Now,
I forgot that already.
knowing all that you know now, would you take any different musical directions? Like, would you start earlier or go to do this show? Like, oh, I should have gone to this event. I should have done this festival. Would you plan it that far in advance? Or would you like, I should have practiced more on the guitar, or I should have not done... Oh, you haven't thought about it that much, I'm sure.
No, I haven't.
Tell me the truth. I know you stood up at night all night. If I had only done that South by Southwest in 2008, it had all been different. But it sounds like you had a good time. Like if you don't ever get a chance to do it over, it sounds like you had a good time.
Mm.
Both your ears worked.
It's been a very blessed life.
That's what I think too. I think I'd have to get a very good roll of the dice to get something equal or better than what I've had. and I'm usually not lucky with the dice. So I don't Or what if they just gave you they gave you 4 choices, but you didn't really know how the life would end up. You just knew this is where I would start.
4 choices?
Like you could be born today in like Nebraska or 1800 in London or 2040 in Pittsburgh or something. You think that would make it easier or that would make it scarier? Or they said you will be a rock star, or you will be a writer, or you will have the best family ever. Like would there be something that would draw you to that particular choice?
I don't know.
Money or fame or happiness, health?
No, I mean, the only thing that appealed to me from the very initial scenario is being able to live my life again and not make the same mistakes. Mm-hmm. That's the elimination of my mistakes in life from my psyche is the big appeal.
Now, I totally agree with that, but I don't even know if I would recognize the mistakes I was getting ready to make if I was doing it over.
Well, that's why it's important to me to know what I know now. If I'm clean slating it, then I'm just going to make the same mistakes again.
Yeah, but even I'm saying I know what you're saying, but even knowing what I know now, I don't know if I'd be smart enough to. I'd be caught up in the moment and be like, "Hey, it's worth it." Damn, I knew it was a mistake and I still did it.
There is the danger of that.
That's going to happen.
Whatever. One more mistake doesn't make any difference. Let's go.
Well, I think y'all are making a mistake
Okay.
in that these mistakes a lot of times are the only way you learned.
Mm-hmm.
And there is a level here of learning. There's a learning curve that you have to go up. What some of you, I think, what you're suggesting is that all of a sudden you just want to know it without going through the pain of not knowing it.
Right.
And so that's part of just developing a skill. It's just like wanting to be able to play the guitar like you can play it without practicing.
Right.
And it doesn't work that way.
Right.
Come
Because
back.
that is part of what I'm wishing for in that scenario is to
Right.
go by me maintaining possession of all my memories and going back and starting over. But that means I still made all those mistakes in the sense of learning from them, but I don't have to make them in this new real life.
Right.
And
or
that would
whatever.
expand your ability to grow at a quicker rate
Mm-hmm.
because you've already learned them, and that just makes sense
Right.
to want that. But in reality, the way it really works is you have to make some mistakes along the way
Mm-hmm.
to figure anything out.
Right.
Unless you're a certain person. There's one guy I know right now that I don't think has ever made a mistake.
You?
No. I made
Me?
I think I just made one.
Was
But
he?
we're not going there.
Was he a former president of the
No,
United
he
States?
wasn't. I don't have a comment.
He's talking about Bob Newhart, ladies and gentlemen.
Exactly.
Right.
That
But
son of
Rest
a
in
gun.
peace.
But also, even if you knew what you knew, like, you know now that if you make one phone call, don't give up. It might be the 9th phone call that gets you a date. Even if I knew that, I'm so timid and so shy, and I would know, just get down and dial 8 more numbers. I don't know if I'd be able to do it. I'd still, my natural,
You'd still be you.
yeah. I'd be like, just all you gotta do is make 8 more. I'd be like, no, I can't even make 1 more. Just let me be. I don't mind staying at home by myself on a Friday night. I mean, are you able to is your knowledge able to override the natural being that you are?
Possibly. I think for the answer would be probably I might make it to 3. I ain't gonna make it to 9. I mean, I got a little pride.
Oh my gosh.
But yeah.
I guess that's the thing. Even though no matter how many chances you get, unless you can overcome your own natural not fears. What is it? Your natural personality,
Shyness,
I guess.
you know,
Yeah.
Well, there's definitely, and shyness is, there's a lot of different reasons for shyness, but you know, some people are attracted to shyness.
Mm-hmm.
People use it as a trick. They're not really shy at all. They're just pretending to be shy.
You thought I was shy. Ah!
I'll show you shy. There's all kinds of people out there.
You know, if you had, let's say you did something, let's say you were 30 years old and you did something terrible. You killed somebody, you were in a bar fight and you hit somebody and they fell and crashed their head. Would you want a life sentence or a death penalty? I always am amazed that these people would say, no, don't give me the death penalty. I'd be like, give me the death penalty the day I go in there. Just take me in, put a gun to my head when I'm walking in the cell and blow my brains out. I don't want to sit in here for 50 years. I'm always amazed at the drive to survive. You would rather be in a prison for 50 years than just end it all.
Yeah, I would ask to see their library first.
Right.
Because I'm gonna become a jail cell lawyer. Get myself out of this hellhole.
What would you choose?
Well,
Life
I
sentence
think
or-
it depends on the accommodations.
Mm-hmm.
If you're just going to put me in a dark cell, I don't want to be in the dark.
What's a bright cell?
Well, a bright cell, but if they had good food.
But you can't do anything you want. You just gotta walk around.
Well, I'm in jail. It just depends on the conditions of the jail. If they had nice people there and good food and a good library, I'd take life.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd try to give back in some way.
Well,
pay back.
so-
My inclination's life.
So,
Unless it's a life of torture.
so let's say it's murder. So they're not sending you to a nice place. I mean, you aren't a bad person. You maybe hit and killed somebody.
Well, do you want me to be what you're describing, or you want me to be me in this?
I want you to be what I'm describing and agree with me. Otherwise, your life in this prison will be a living hell, young man. You'll wish you were dead when you come into my cell.
That's what I was afraid of.
I don't understand how people, like just horrible, mean people that just like, no, I don't want the death penalty. I'm like, man, I would be like just, when I get off the bus, have a police car just run up and run right over me before I even get into the place.
I have definitely often thought that life is more of a punishment than the death penalty.
Oh, I agree with that. That's what I think sometimes too. Don't give them if somebody killed my mom or my brother, I would say don't kill them. Keep them alive as long as you can in a jail.
Mm-hmm.
I totally agree with that.
Yeah, it's almost more of a punishment if you just make the conditions worse or whatever, of life in solitary confinement or something. No library, that's way more of a horrific punishment than the death penalty.
But how many people really do something so bad that they deserve to be in jail their whole like robbers and stuff? Is that really such a bad thing that you deserve just to spend every second of your life?
Penalty. Yeah.
I know it's
situation ethics again. Some things are worse than other things, and some cultures, and like robbing an old lady is a lot worse than robbing a bank. But is it really? No, I don't. Not really. The law says it's the same thing. So there you go.
I've always had a thing against punitive justice. Seems to be based on the idea that you make an example of an individual to scare the rest of society from doing the same thing they did. And I've always sort of despised that whole philosophy, whereas restorative justice looks at the individual and decides what would be just and how do we restore them to a healthier place in society.
Right.
So you'd look at each individual as an individual case, like what needs to happen here to this individual, as opposed to punitive justice, just like, oh, throw away the key to scare the rest of society. And it doesn't even there's no real concern for
Right.
the individual who
Yeah.
perpetrated the crime.
See, that's the type of thing I think politically we need to change, and we need to discuss it. Something you never hear at a national level or any real but it's a policy thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this punitive thing has outlived its usefulness.
Right.
And you're just actually I have heard, and I don't know this much about it, but I've heard the Japan system works, and their justice system works completely differently. And what I think you're saying, and I believe is very strongly, is that when we get these young people in front of a judge, they need to be looking at them. What can we do to solve this problem? Because you're going down the wrong path.
Mm-hmm.
And putting them in jail with hardened criminals is the absolute worst thing you could do.
Right.
All you're doing is
You're
training
taking a
them,
wounded soul and
putting it
inflicting
with
more
people that have
damage.
given up
Mm-hmm.
on the system, that are enemies of the system, and you're making them live together.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
So you got to look at the situation, but hardcore prisoners should be being punished. A young person that's going down and should not be put in the same environment with them. They need to be treated in a way that can give them a chance to come back into society.
Mm-hmm.
And what we do is ostracize too many of these people.
Mm-hmm.
And that should be something we're aware of and work at, and should have been doing a lot better a long time ago.
Mm-hmm.
But this idea of punishment is sometimes it's appropriate.
Right.
There are bad people out there, and I'm not saying that. But I think you have to have a philosophy about that.
Mm-hmm.
Can we save you?
Right.
And,
Should be the first question.
I'll get off my pedestal now.
No, I can't remember exactly. And this is not, I'm not going political, Democrat, Republican or anything, but you had mentioned yesterday the, like these camps for the homeless or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Now, do you see that would be any benefit to that, or would that just be that's sort of the same thing, taking people that maybe not their own fault, maybe they're actually doing sort of well in the streets, put them all together? Do you think that was totally bad, or could have some good effects? Or
that's some tough stuff. Like I definitely don't have the expertise to. It's sort of like mental institutions used to be everywhere. Every town had them, and then at a certain point we realized that there was a lot of horrific aspects to that,
right.
and people being put in there for the wrong reasons and forced in there. But then we just got rid of them,
Right.
and now there's nowhere for mentally ill people to be helped, and it's like a lot of babies being thrown out with the bathwater all around. But it's like it's such a tricky question on what does society do with mentally unstable people roaming the streets?
Right.
Like what's the move? What's the right thing to do? What's the healthy thing to do? It's even the issue of homelessness is a very tricky thing. I mean, I've thought about this for a long time, because there is this fact of the matter that in the last 200 years, for the first time in human history, every square inch of the earth is private property. Mm-hmm. On some level or another, there's nowhere to run anymore. Whereas for thousands of years, all kinds of different spirits. You could be a nomadic soul and just keep moving. Hobos hopping trains and living. Like there was, and you could always just, like, if you were that kind of person, you could go into the uncharted wilderness and build a little shack and live that way. But now, for the first time in human history, it's all private property, and so there's really. It in a way, you're born into this indentured servitude to society itself. You better find a way to make your money. There's nowhere to run anymore. Where it's really a new phenomenon in human history.
Right.
It's only in very recent times, even like 100 years ago, you could go off and find another society or another group of people or
Right.
another way to live or live a nomadic life or something. And so all these things are compounding into this very unique scenario that we're all trying to figure out how to manage and what to do with that. Homelessness is like I don't know. You look at some of the big cities where they have these huge camps now I just don't know what the right thing to do with all that is as a society.
And homelessness to me, I mean, I'm just thinking from what it's not that far away from a lot of people with rents like in Staunton, even like $1,500 and stuff. I mean, that's a lot of money. You have to have at least a halfway decent job to be able to even get like an apartment now.
Right.
It's not like it was like if you can just hustle your way through and get a job, you get a. I mean, we wouldn't have the best place in the world to live, but you have a place over your head. Now it's like, I mean, you got to give 3/4 of your monthly pay to even just get a place to sit down at night.
What do you think of this idea? Here's a crazy idea that would have disastrous consequences. Let's daydream about them for a second. I've often wondered what would happen if like every state had this anarchy zone. It's like 20 square miles of no authority.
Like you could visit there and go crazy, or you just live there.
There's no law.
You're talking about Vegas, right? Well, no, it sounds good. It sounds like if you were a tough individual, you could survive there. But then I would think
That's the problem. Is it would be Mad Max.
Right,
Like
but then
tough people would take it over, and
Right.
they would be the authority.
and then you get perverts and weirdos going in there on the weekends.
Running. Yeah, it would be the place you'd run. You'd
Right.
go commit crimes
Right.
in society and flee to the autonomous zone.
If there was a way to keep it, like, look, we're not going to mess with each other. You do what you want to do. I want to. But like you said, there's always going to be somebody in there looking to hustle somebody.
That is the problem.
But I guess that's been the way it's been forever too. You have to be smart enough to stay away from those people.
So there's no real way to just create parts of the world where you're just allowed to be homeless or whatever.
Right.
Like, or
Well, there are.
what do you mean?
Well, there are parts of the world that have cultures that haven't been tainted by your concepts.
Mm-hmm. Like where?
Well, all in the jungles, on the South Pacific Islands. There are, you can have like, there might be some culture where the touristy place is, where they have an enclosed world, and they have all the beaches and everything. But up in the mountains, up in there are natives up there that are living out the life they want to live, or that they've lived for years and years, that haven't been touched by us, by our cultures, or any cultures other than the one that they have.
But and I totally agree with that. But that seems like a little bit of like if you grew up here in Staunton and you wanted to live a life, you would have to be really to go live up with the natives in some jungle would be a huge step back. What if you wanted to just live the same type of life you had now? Like you didn't want to have to get up and go forage for food every day and walk 5 miles for water and stuff.
Right. So,
But
No doctors, no.
I mean, are you asking me what it?
Yeah, what's
I
the
mean,
question?
that's the way.
there?
I don't know what.
I mean, I agree there are places like that, but I think Nathan's like saying, what if you basically want to keep a sort of a level of what you're used to?
I don't think there's a way to benefit from society and not contribute to it or whatever.
Yeah, but like, you don't want to go back where there's no internet, no TV, you're eating just snake and river rat or something. That was this. Do you really want to be that free? Like, oh, I'm free, and I got a tick bite, and I'm gonna die because there's no doctor around to help me.
But that is more what I was saying, because for thousands of years, you could just go out into the world and try to live off of it. Like, even, for most of this country's formation or whatever, like, you know, when we were settling the country and stuff, you could just go out and build a little place on land,
Right.
and if you were, as long as you were there, that was like your you sort
Right.
of claimed it, or like, but then slowly over time, like all of it got claimed, and so that whole mode of existence, there's, you know, like,
I'm going to give a little footnote right up here. This is the talking of a man who just came back from weeks in the wilderness. And he's full of himself,
that's right. Oh yeah, we were living off the land.
roughing it.
I made a hell of a lasagna in my Dutch oven. I have to say, but I brought the ingredients from the civilized world with me, so I didn't have to forage for those noodles.
Like what would you think you would? How long could you survive without like your phone or internet or like a guitar amp or something?
Well,
I mean, it's a sort of a dumb question because 30 years ago, if I asked you, you'd say, "What are you talking about?" I'd
Right.
go all. It's not
I
like
lived half my life without any
it's
of
not
that.
like ancient history where you had to do that, but I guess you'd get used to it, or you'd learn other things. You learn to appreciate birds or something.
Yeah, you have to find other things to do. I think I've been doing that. I've had to do that lately because it's an all-star break and there's no ball games. So I've had to, and it's
back
been
to a more primitive.
and it's been too hot to go out and do much. So
But also,
I've had to find more things to do at home.
But also think, not only would you have to go to one hut and knock on the door for a date, you have to go to 9 huts and knock on you'd have to walk around and face to face.
Exactly. Yeah, that's exactly what I've been doing. That's funny. Oh,
So what do y'all do? Any ideas in general, broad swaths about the homeless issue? Like,
I think we ought to have some type of centralized area and not allow like the panhandling and things that can get out of hand when you have a lot of homeless. I mean, you're basically talking about people with nowhere to go at night. And, you know, we have the Valley Mission and have some things already, but I think the government or whoever, maybe all the churches can start using some of the resources we have, like some of the churches around, and turn like an old building into a place where we could take these people and for limited amounts of time and try to do the same thing I was talking about with the punitive, try to figure out a way to help rather than just try to run them away, because that doesn't solve the problem. It just transfers it to somewhere else. So that would be my first thought.
But it's also, you think, and you tend to think the homeless people, if you just help them out a little bit, they're all good people. They're all good people. If you just, they had a bad situation. A lot of them are not good people. So you can't just say, oh, and I agree with you too, if we could get housing for them, but there's going to be some psychos in there. They're going to, you know,
Well, you'd have to have it supervised.
Right.
And you have to have rules, and it's a one-strike rule, and you're going to have issues, and you're going to have to deal with it, and you're going to have people that know how to do that.
right.
And that all takes resources. So, but I think we could come up with it in different ways.
The book I'm reading now is a guy who lives like in a flop house in Key West. And there's an old military sergeant that lives there. There's a bunch of winos and bums and stuff. And every morning the guy goes through and wakes all the winos and bums out and gets them up, makes them march up and down. He's trying to put some discipline in them. like if I can just get y'all disciplined, you know, you learn something. And this guy like sits up at his window and is like, man, those guys they can't even, like, they're all drunk trying to march, and he's yelling at them and stuff. It's like, I think, and I'm the worst at this. I'm the worst at like just putting the sunshine on everything. If we could just help homeless people, they would all be nice and fed and everybody. But you'd have people fighting and, you know.
Well, you go back to another problem. A lot of these people that we're talking about are homeless. Not a lot of them. I don't know what the percentage is, but we're talking about going back to the mental illness thing.
Right.
There are all types of mental illness out there that aren't being treated.
Right.
They don't have medication. They don't have any Medicare or anything, and they can't afford medication. So they're either drugged up or mentally ill. So you got to deal with all those issues when you're dealing with the homeless. So it's a very complex, hard problem.
I feel like it's really hard too to like come up with a institutional fix for these things. I feel like when you hear stories of success in a lot of these ideas, they're led by visionary people, like the guy that's marching them.
Right.
That's a unique soul with a unique approach,
Right.
trying to do something good or whatever. That stuff works, but you try to. But then you try to make that like an institutional, like say that worked. I'm
Right.
just imagining what
Right.
you're talking about. But say that worked. Then you try to make that a template to do other places.
Right.
And then you got someone marching them that's an asshole or
Right.
ineffective, not inspiring. It's just, I feel like the solution is for us to find the beautiful souls out there that have that transformative spirit and give them all the resources they need to do what they're doing. But I feel like we need
Right.
millions of leaders.
That's the thing. The personal attention and love and concern you show for somebody is better for them than feeding them or putting a roof over their head. And that's the thing. We don't have the resources, like you said, to focus on each individual as a person.
You're exactly right.
A lady at work was talking about, she works for a church group, and they try to find, she said it's mostly women, but it could be men too, that have kids, and they try to get you a place to live. But to do that, you have to have volunteers that become like your family. So like they call and check in on you. Like if it's your kid's birthday, they come over. It's not, you don't really have to give any money, but you have to be like a kind, caring, loving. Like they said, that's the most important thing for these people getting off drugs or not doing stupid stuff. It's somebody to care about you.
Exactly.
And like you said, the institutions aren't set up to, they're scoop out your food in the morning, and they can't really, we just aren't built that way to do that.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good program. I'd like to hear more about that.
Mm-hmm. Well, we did it. I'm so sorry we couldn't see your chats out there and interact with your thoughts as well. We will fix that for the next time that we're back, but it's good to be back on this course with you guys.
Good to see y'all, and I miss hearing from you. But you got to have the rest of us got to talk more.
That's true.
So that was awful good.
And when you see us next week, we might be in our second life we've chosen.
Yeah, if we had to do it all over again, we'd definitely be on our way back to doing this again.
That's right.
My mind was having fun daydreaming about that, about getting to do it all over again, and how I would definitely retrace my steps because I would want to meet all the same people.
That's a great point.
I would not want to lose any of my friends.
Oh,
in
yeah.
this.
I would have gone to that Bob Dylan concert.
You wouldn't have gone to the Virgin Club so much.
I would have cut down on the Virgin part. I guarantee. Yeah, that was never good. That never turned out that well, as I recall. It's not on the part of my brain that says happiness and joy. Another one of those learning experiences that some people call a mistake.
All right, I'm not calling an audible based on the conversation. I was already planning on playing this one. This is an old song I recently resurrected last night.
Cool.
But it's just fun to play again. I'm the underdog or I don't stand a chance. I'll sing my song, it won't take long, I'll do my little dance. I'm singing to the exit sign as tight behind the lids. As I think of things, a list of things I do as love forbids. I do as love forbids, boys, I do as love forbids. Well, I won't pull the wool or play the fool, can't pretend to be proper or tall. There's only one, she's gone, oh God, I'm no good at all. People tell me, yeah, they say they love the way I write, but they can't feel the painful wings, they only see the flight. They're not there in the wee hours when the clock keeps striking one, and I sit and stare and know full well why my baby gone. Why my baby gone, boys, why my baby gone? Well, I won't pull the wool or play the fool, can't pretend to be proper or tall. There's only one, she's gone, oh God, I'm no good at all.
Damn.
Every time I try to tie myself to a makeshift cross, it's either funny or I make money the way the point is tossed. Like a bottle out into the ocean or hurtling off into space. In the dark I leave my mark, it shows no signs of grace. It shows no signs of grace, boys, it shows no signs of grace. I won't pull the wool or play the fool, can't pretend to be proper or tall. There's only one, she's gone, oh God, I'm no good at all. No, I won't pull the wool or play the fool, can't pretend to be proper or tall. There's only one, she's gone, oh God, I'm no good at all.
Yes, sir.
Wow.
Yes, sir.
That's what everybody needs. Someone
Cheers.
that's good for them.
That was a good one.
See you next time.
Bye-bye.
Man, that tied in perfect.
It sort of did.
That's so true, though. We have somebody that cares about us. That means more than anything else.
Yeah, and you can't make that. You can't institutionalize that. You can't just set that up in every town. You need those souls that care, see the good in you.
Yeah. Realize how crazy you are.
Yeah. You're here.
Man.